guys. Hi. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay. I was literally watching Dink's live stream until 10 seconds ago. And then I was like, I need to actually go and restart my computer. So we did that. And here we are. It's like, hey guys, it's great to see you. So welcome in, welcome in. Hey, everybody. Hey, hi to everybody that's watching live and hi to everybody that watches later. So I saw that some folks were able to watch the stream like at a later time. And I was like, I should make sure to say hello to them too. Because guys, we have a lot to get into today. Hey, everybody. Hi. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? As I'm like, can we help with the sound check, please? Mic check. How does Coach do it? Whoop, whoop. I'm not good at that. I can't do it. I'm going to owe him money. I'm sorry. I cannot do that. But I can just say hello. Hey to everyone. So welcome in. Guys, okay. I was thinking that this time for live streaming was a good fit for everyone. And so what I'm hoping you guys can do is you guys, I count on you to like let me know stuff. I'm hoping you guys can let me know if like now is a good time. The thing is, I love watching everybody's lives. I get so much information, right? But I wanted to make sure that I was able to like kind of get started before we are watching Candace and before we're watching Baron. So I was thinking, well, maybe this little time of day is a good time. So if everyone can let me know, is this a good time of day for you guys for us to hang out? Oh, yes. And okay, we're going to get better at this so soon. But for now, I just saw this comment. Please hit like on the video if you haven't had a chance to on your way in, if you don't mind, just so that we can, get into the algorithm and that we can hang out with more of us, because that's what I want is for everybody to like hang out together and feel like we're kind of, getting it together on the same page at the same time. So let me know if now is like a good time for you guys to be here. Because I feel like for me, I don't know, I know during the summer, it can be a little bit like, well, we have stuff to do. It's still sunny out. Kids are, out of school. And sometimes some of us are working at this time. But for me, it's a pretty good fit for a time. And I got the feeling that maybe I wasn't the only one. So I was like, let me just make my little spot here and see how it works for everyone. So today we have kind of a big show because I figured something out and I wanted to talk to you guys about it. As you guys know, whenever I figure anything out, I bring it to you right away. So my thought is that what we might want to do is we'll talk about something that I think that we figured out. And then after that, I wanted us to go into the Google Trends and kind of like do a research along a little bit, but kind of a learning all of the ins and outs of Google Trends. Baron made such a great point on his show the other day. He's like, I think he said he had like 9 steps that he uses in order to determine the signal from the noise. And he's exactly right. There are different ways that people go about like kind of structuring that data and then determining how important that data is. And so I thought to myself, well, I get the feeling that it's probably pretty similar, the ways that we kind of look at the data and get into it. But if it is different, well, that's good information too. But I wanted you guys to kind of see the way that I do it, because realistically, I'm like, I want everyone to do this stuff. I want it to be like as many people as possible that feel comfy doing Google Trend searches, diving into data, and then we can all put it together, right? So that was my thought for today. But first things first, we have figured something out. Okay, so like, bear with me. Does everyone have water? Does everyone have coffee? I'm like, we have the Stanley, of course. This is it's a nurse thing. I don't know. I've heard that maybe we're supposed to go to a different water mug now, but I don't know. I just like it. One of my sisters got me the watercolor one, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. So I don't know. Maybe it's moved on from there, but I'm sticking with it. That's just me. So if we have that, and then we have because it is way too hot outside, guys. No, it's way too hot. So we're going to make sure that we are well hydrated and wide awake. I think this is going to require that a little bit because I figured something out. And I really, really think that it helped me kind of put together what it is that we're seeing, what it is that's going on, and why all of these different groups seem like they almost have different goals that we're all kind of being put in the middle of. Does that make sense? I was thinking about the fact that I saw a little argument on X, right? And it was that Gary, Officer Milton, which, friend of the show, right? That he had posted that thing about wanting Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth to be the candidates in 2028. Okay. And that's fine. That we know, right? But then a few minutes later, Agent Poso started posting, hey guys, if you are not standing by JD as the candidate, then you are basically a traitor. And I was like, that's so weird. It felt like it was a little bit like, okay, are they saying that to each other? Does that make sense? I was like, they're saying that to each other. It was a little subtweet, right? And so I was like, that doesn't really make sense. The idea that these guys, they're supposed to be kind of on the same team, aren't they? So realistically, they might have different interests. And it really got me to thinking about something, and I wanted to bring it up. And I'm like, I have coffee, but that's okay. I'm like, please bear with me, guys. Okay, so first things first. Does everyone in chat, can you guys tell me, are you guys familiar with the show The Sopranos? Has everyone seen the show The Sopranos? Do you remember that show? I want to say it was back in, was it the early 2000s? I think it was the early 2000s. If you guys have seen the show The Sopranos, or if you're familiar with it, can you do me a huge favor? Can you put a 1 in the chat if you have seen The Sopranos or you're familiar with it? Because it's important. Hold on, let me add this guy to the screen so that we can see. There's the boss man himself. That's Tony Soprano. He's kind of the guy. He's the main character from that show. Okay, so let me close in on him a little bit. I'm like, what's a good Tony Soprano picture? This one's very nice. Let's go with that one. Everyone can see Tony, right? Okay. If you haven't seen The Sopranos, that's okay. No worries. We'll talk about it a tiny bit. But so anyway, it's a show. It was a great show. If you ever get the chance to watch it, I want to say it was on HBO. And the premise of the show was that guy right there, that's Tony Soprano. He runs a mafia family. He is the effective boss for a mafia family. Okay. So technically it's his uncle Junior who is the boss of that family. But realistically, Tony, he runs the day-to-day operations. I was thinking about how all of our characters, how all of the people that seem to be involved with Fort Banana, with whatever it is that's going on, the Fed sloppers, the narrative, and all of the different groups that may have contributed, had awareness of, had any knowledge about the event that, we saw in Provo on September 10th. And I was thinking to myself, it's really, really hard to kind of parse everybody, to keep them all straight. I'm like, well, okay, so Van, our vice sectional, he is somebody that has a specific group of investors, right? We all know the Island Boys, right, are kind of our PayPal mafia, that they are very, very specifically boosting him. They want him. We also know that Mima, right, our Vegas family, they very much want Rubio. Rubio has been their pet for a very, very, very long time. I started to think, okay, so what would make it so that these people with these conflicting interests, is it possible that they maybe work together sometimes, right? And I started to think about the parallels that we're seeing in this situation to The Sopranos. See, when you think about Tony Soprano, he was an interesting character. He had a lot going on. He was always at his therapist. He was always trying to, figure out the best way to manage these situations. And the stressors for him were, yes, of course, the feds, they were after him. The cops were around. There were always the guys in the actual family that gave him trouble. But guys, the real point of contention that Tony was up against were the other New York families. See, when Tony would want to take control of an area. He's in New Jersey, so he's technically part of the New Jersey. He's a little bit on the smaller side. But what he wanted to do more than anything was he just wanted to have the freedom to operate his business, maybe go legit. That's always the goal. And he wanted to be able to kind of operate in peace. The problem was that there were all of these other families, and what they were continually doing, what they were constantly doing, is they were fighting with each other. They were always fighting with each other. And so what I thought to myself was, okay, all of these different interests, they remind me, I'm not saying that they're, involved in any organized crime. I would not say that. I'm not going to on this channel say that. I will let any persons watching draw their own conclusions based on kind of what we're talking about, right? But when we think about the ways that these people are operating, it bears thinking about the fact that in the mob, when you're dealing with the mob, it's not just the outside forces, it's the internal battles a lot of the time that are sitting there and backbiting each other, right? At first, I used to say that this was I felt like we were in the worst episode of Succession ever. I was like, this is the worst episode of Succession ever. And everyone is, just arguing over what the direction the country is going to be. But what I realized when I thought about it was that, the mob, you heard about it a lot. You heard about it a lot back in the day, right? But what they always wanted to do was they wanted to go legit. They wanted to go legit. And I think that a lot of them did end up trading the diner for the boardroom, right? People that used to hang out and talk to each other there, well, they started having those communications on private jets. If you think about the amount of money that your neighborhood bookie made or that owning a wastewater treatment facility made, that was some pretty good money. But nowadays, the amount of money that we're talking about, it really does make those bookies look small potatoes. Do you see what I'm saying? The amount of money that was being made back then, it's really, really nothing compared to the amounts that we're seeing right now. So I started to think and I thought, they are behaving a lot more like mafia families than they are like businesses. I don't know if any of you guys ever, if you guys love mafia movies and that genre as much as I do. I loved that genre. The Departed is one of my very, very favorite movies of all time. And there is this really funny movie that was in 1999. It was called Analyze This. And it was with Robert De Niro. He played Paul Vitti. Okay. And he was really, really stressed. And he had a therapist. And the therapist had to kind of talk him through it. And a lot of the reason that he was so stressed out was because he had to go to this huge summit of the other bosses. And he really thought that at that summit, they were going to try to get him, right? So he was terrified. He was so scared. And he had to, it was a whole journey for him. It's a very, very funny movie. I definitely recommend it if you guys get the chance to see it. But it got me to thinking. And I thought, when I think about what these people are after, power, that is a finite resource. If we think about, for example, who has control of the White House? Who has control of Dawn? Well, we know that, how am I going to phrase this? The Island Boys, that faction, they got their VP pick in, right? That's a huge amount of power that they were able to bring into the White House. We also know that Mima and the Vegas crew, well, they just came and donated, $100 million to Dawn and said, hi, here, this is a check, we're writing it, and now we own you, right? That's a lot of power. We also know that the syndicate in Tel Aviv, can we call it that? The Tel Aviv group, you see what I'm saying? That they also have traditionally held a great deal of sway over the financial institutions over the defense contractors. I always say that Tel Aviv is just kind of the purchasing wing of Raytheon, right? And so for them to have this constant flow of cash that is coming in from overseas, in the form of aid packages, that right there is a huge, huge, huge amount of profit and amount of power. But power, ultimately, it's a finite resource, isn't it? I mean, so are government contracts. So are the actual amount of dollars that are being allocated, to the defense budget or coming out of a specific aid package. The amount of dollars is finite, which means that the big boss is going to be taking more resources than all the little guys. And if you think about the ways that the mafia operates, that the mob operates, a lot of times what they'll do is they will try to form temporary alliances that allow them to take down the top dog. That movie, Analyze This, it was actually based off of a real mafia situation back in the 30s. So it was called The Commission. The Commission was the 5 main New York criminal syndicate, like families, right? And it was like Lucky Luciano, and it was the Genovese. Am I saying that right? I hope I am. The Genovese and the Gambinos and the Bananos. And, they would all meet together, and then they would decide who got a slice of the pie and who didn't, who got left out. And during those meetings, they brought so much security because they knew that there was probably the highest chance of something happening to them right then. They were not afraid of the feds. The feds, they can be bought. The locals, they knew that they owned them too. But it was the other guys. And the fact that at any point they could team up to try to take out the big dog. And it really got me to thinking. I started to, rather than try to put them into just strictly business relationships, because part of what I've been doing is trying to, coordinate, all right, who is it that's on, team Mima? Who is it that's on team Einstein? Who is it that's on, But I started to think, what this reminds me a lot more of is mob families, right? In DC, they have a lot going on. There are a lot of people there. This is very serious money that we're talking about. And I started to think, so why would the DC family, why would they want to get rid of Charlie? Well, Charlie was talking a lot about the Einstein files. In fact, Charlie invited Tucker on stage to discuss the Einstein files. And so when we think about what the motive was, I don't want us to just get stuck into, well, it's just, just this reason, just this person, that and that alone. I get the feeling that everyone had a reason to come to the table, whether that took place at Fort Banana or not, right? But it occurred to me, well, okay, so if we're talking about defense contractors, if we're talking about, actors within the government, within the Pentagon, et cetera, he was talking about those Einstein files a lot. And so for me, that's a reason enough that they might come to that table. Then I started thinking about who the other folks were, the Silicon Valley guys, right? I mean, not to say that any of these people is directly engaged in wrongdoing. I'm not saying that. But if we wanted to think about what the reason is that they might be interested, well, Charlie was talking a lot about Butler, wasn't he? Now, I'm not saying necessarily that Silicon Valley, that group, is responsible for it. But I think that there's questions, right? It could be that they're just opportunists. Like it absolutely could be that they're just opportunists and they wanted an opportunity to take down someone even bigger. We'll talk about that in a second. When I thought about the Vegas entities, Mima and the gang, right? When I thought about the folks in Vegas, why would they come to the table? Why would they come to that summit? Why would they come to that meeting? Well, Charlie was changing his tune on The Greatest Ally, wasn't he? Right? Charlie was, saying that he had questions, very reasonable ones about October 7th. Charlie was saying that he wanted to, possibly have a slightly different relationship with them than he had had to before, right? I also want us to think about in the back of our minds that when we are talking about the Tel Aviv family, they are not a monolith, okay? So just like how in American politics, we sit there and we think, okay, obviously there's the left, there's the right, moderates, people that are more extreme. They have just as complex of political relationships over there as we do here, right? They really, really are complex. Now, something we know is that Mima has been actively trying to get rid of the prime minister since, I think, like in 2017, it started to kind of heat up. In 2017, that was about when it started to kind of heat up, and they, kind of had a little break. They used to be friends. I mean, if remember that the PM, Bibi, well, can we say Bibi on the stream? I wonder if that will be a problem, but I don't know. So we're going to cross our fingers, okay? So when we're thinking about the way that Mima and Biebs, that they've gotten along, they had a major, major falling out close to a decade ago. The thing is that those are two of the most powerful operators in the greatest ally, two of the most powerful operators, and they are not on the same team. They actually really cannot stand each other. They actually very much cannot stand each other. That Biebs is on trial right now, right? Biebs is currently on trial at the moment. And the thing is that one of the main witnesses for the prosecution is Mima herself. She really wants to get rid of him. She has her own image of the person that she wants to have in power. She thinks that he's run his course. He's a political anchor. And so she has been working really, really hard to get rid of him. And I started thinking about, okay, these people, although when we're saying Israel, Charlie, I agree. But when we say Israel, who do we mean? Who is it that we are talking about? Are we talking about Biebs? Are we talking about someone else who is just as involved and entangled into those kind of, into those politics? Or could it possibly be that we're looking at one of the most classic moves in mafia politics? And sometimes that's a setup. Sometimes that is a setup to take out the top dog. Now, I am not saying that I think that Biebs, had no involvement. I'm not saying that. I'm really not. I'm not prepared to say that at all. But getting someone into trouble, right? Getting them into a situation where they are not able to get out of it. That sounds very, very much like what the mob does. And whether these people's mob ties are actual or if they're just hypothetical, guys, I'm not sure that I'm prepared to say either way, right? But think about that for a second. There has been nothing more detrimental. This is a Candace quote. She said this on her show like a month or two ago. There really has been nothing more detrimental to the political career of Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm like, can I say it on stream? I'm saying Bibi, right? Than the death of Charlie Kirk. There has been nothing more detrimental because everyone knows, Israel, Charlie Kirk. So think about that for a minute and think about who the real beneficiaries have been. I mean, there have been a lot of them, and we'll get to these, our last guys in a second. But if you had a way to do a frame job on your biggest enemy, if you had the opportunity to maybe team up with someone who could get the job done, if you had an opportunity to take him out in a way that you have not been able to accomplish ever before, well, if you could do a frame job on them, it would not be the first time that the mob did that. I don't think it would be the last. So when I've been trying to think about who the folks are that are on these different teams, I think that I'm not calling them criminals, but I'm just saying that the crime families, it makes so much more sense to me especially when we think about the fact that, I know that TPUSA, Faith, and, or Zionist interests, they also have seemed to have their own interests, and they have aligned more and less with each other throughout this. So, is it possible that what we're looking at is the commission or something like it? Are we looking at the Lucianos versus the Gambinos versus the Bananos? I mean, it may be, and in my opinion, that is what really makes the most sense to me. I did notice that a couple of them are, how to put it? Let me explain a better way than I was just going to, because this wasn't going to make sense unless I told you the background. So, as you guys know, I went and talked to Stu, and I talked to Danks, and I put out videos about the fact that I thought that maybe there was a chance that certain individuals associated with Turning Point, certain individuals associated with our government, that these very specific individuals may or may not have been at Fort Banana on that day, and that we have found what I felt was clues, evidence of the idea that they were actually there, right? So when I sat there and said, okay, I think that these guys were here, government affiliated people, and also the folks from, a couple folks' names that are part of Turning Point. Well, all of a sudden, within a few minutes, within a few hours of that happening, a few things happened in reaction. One, someone contacted Google, I think, and went ahead and took those searches right offline. Now, to me, I thought, well, that sounds like something the government would do. And that's okay, because again, I do not want them to have bad operational security. I actually want them to have good operational security. So I'm like, guys, good. You should never have been searching for that stuff to begin with. And it's okay for the public sometimes to just not know things. However, if some girl in her office is just going to be able to find this stuff, then you think like much more sophisticated actors can't ever find this stuff? That's crazy. In fact, they went and they deleted, like they overdid it. They overcompensated. They took all of the searches off from Erica Kirk after Charlie passed. The idea that no one was searching for Erica Kirk in the days after Charlie's passing in the entire state of Arizona, where she is from, where she lives. Come on. When there were like a lot of searches in the general Arizona Google Trends results to begin with. So I thought to myself, well, no, that does not make a ton of sense. They overcorrected. When I noticed that they had taken the searches off from Andrew Kovac and from Johnny Moore, I thought, well, I'm surprised that they're being granted the same level of national security considerations that our actual service members are. That does not make a ton of sense to me, but who knows, right? Who knows? Unfortunately, they did leave a few of them up. I was able to go back on Stu and be like, hey, here they are again, being searched in this very specific capacity as the Kairos company, which is Johnny Moore's media company. And I thought, okay, well, they wiped everything, but they didn't wipe it all, did they? They didn't do a 100% job. And I thought to myself, well, this feels government level to me. That feels government level to me, because the idea that they might be able to actually go in and wipe those that quickly, guys, that feels government level. But I thought to myself, well, now, okay, so if we assume that we're talking about a government level operation, then why is it that they would have had considerations for Turning Point? And I was like, you know what? I get the feeling that there's a real possibility these people are working together, and that these families, these interests, maybe they're aligned, and maybe that alignment is really specific to this event. Because when I've been trying to think about what reason Turning Point or anyone affiliated with Turning Point, what Zionist interests, what they would have in the removal of Charlie. Well, what we know is that in the Hamptons on October 4th and 5th, Baby called Charlie. And Baby called Charlie, and he said to him, I want to take Turning Point to the next level. He offered him X number of dollars, right? X number of dollars. We don't know. There have been estimates all the way up to like $150 million. We're talking about a great deal of money. Regardless, it was a lot. And what do we know? We know that Charlie said no. He declined. Can you imagine if there were someone with bad intentions in that room? Someone with bad intentions in that room who heard that phone call happen. Might they have said to themselves, Charlie's saying no to that, but we'll say yes. Because the way that all of these folks operate together, to me, feels a lot more like the real ways that we know that the mob operates. We also know that they have historical interests together. They have times they've worked together in the past. For example, one, Andrew, friend of the show, another friend of the show, has worked for this Kairos company, and that Kairos company worked for Mima. And so when I've been trying to think about what brought everyone to the table, well, it could be that everybody came to that summit for more than one reason, that they might have had their own personal interests, but they had a common issue, and that was Charlie. Whether it was the fact that he was looking at the Einstein files, whether it was the fact that he was looking into Butler, whether it was the fact that he was platforming Tucker and thinking about platforming Candace, whether it was the fact that he said no to going to the next level from the prime minister, whether it was the fact that he had what sounds like a very suspicious appointment coming up on Monday. You guys remember that they were going to go and that he had a meeting to maybe make changes to as well. It could very much be that at that point, a lot of these interests became aligned. And I've been thinking about what the level of responsibility is for each different individual group. That's something that I have really been trying to kind of dig into, because as I started to realize that it's not just one group. Remember, guys, Benjamin Netanyahu was not on the top of the Losi Center, right? Even Mima was not on the top of the Losi Center. So therefore, just by this logic alone, when we say it was, it might have been our greatest ally, it doesn't mean that it was just one person, and it doesn't even mean that it was one interest group. Something else that I hope that you guys will keep thinking about with me is the fact that, sorry, okay, wait, we did get a cough button. I'm like, hold on a second. I need to go and see if it'll work. Okay, no, wait, I can't see it. It's okay. We'll worry about it another time. For now, one more day without a cough button. I'm very sorry, but we got one, so we're getting there. Anyway. When I have been thinking about what are the things that matter, what are the things that matter in this? The interest, the motive, I don't want us to get stuck thinking that it's just one thing. There is absolutely a way that it's more than just one thing that brought all of these individuals to the table. And in addition to that, that they may not actually be still allied in everything. I mean, obviously, in this situation, everybody's, covering for each other to a certain extent. But there are breaks in this already that we're seeing from them. And I get the feeling that that's because some of them have different motivations. Another thing is, if you remember, when Mr. Andrew, for some reason, decided to send those messages over to Joe Kent and to the FBI, he sent the messages specifically, the ones that said Israel, that Charlie was afraid of the greatest ally, that Charlie was afraid that they were going to get him. And so it had been rolling around in my mind. Why would he say that? Why would he say such a thing? Well, like I said, if this were a frame job, if this were an opportunity that maybe, I don't know, let's spitball here. This is total speculation. Okay, complete speculation. Don't worry. But if, for example, Mima and, I don't know, the Island Boys, maybe they both have really strong motivation to do this. Well, it might make sense that both of those people would be really directly benefited by not having Charlie, yes, but also by not having Baby in their way anymore either. And so I keep thinking about the fact that we need to keep our options open, because realistically, more likely than not, it's not going to be just a single person. Now, in addition to that, I also wanted us to think about how we handle the Fed sloppers, the pushback, all of the drama and stuff like that. Now I try to stay away from it. I'm like, no, like, please, no one, don't look over here. Like, I'm okay. Like, I do not want to participate in it, but not just because I don't want to fight a Kandahar giant. Like, please, sir, leave me alone. Okay, relax. But when I've been thinking about what matters, it's not that. That is attacks to try to distract us, right? Those are efforts to try to silence us. And we are not going to be distracted. We are not going to do distractions. We are just going to do results. That is how we stay focused. We are mission focused. And this, what I don't know what someone called it. Oh, it's not that. I mean, obviously, everybody here is probably from the high IQ outfit, but all of us, okay, Team Small Potatoes and the high IQ outfit, and everybody who is invested in finding the truth. We cannot be distracted. We cannot be divided. So I don't even want to engage in it, and especially because these are the goons that we're dealing with. Okay, so do me a favor. Think about like how a mafia family kind of operates. I'm like, oh, maybe I can look up a chart, because sometimes I look at the Rico charts. Hold on a second. Let me see here. Let's go and take a little peek. 1 second. I'm like, not me trying to Google this. I'm sorry. Mafia organization chart. Okay, let's try this. I think that this is probably going to be helpful. What if I can make it? No, bigger. Way bigger. I've done too much. Let's see if we can do it. All right. Oh, no. Can you guys? No, you can't. Oh, my goodness. No, that's terrible. Okay, 1 sec. Oh, my gosh. No, computer is... guys, someday someone will teach me how to computer, and I will feel so happy, but that day is not today. Can everyone see this? No, can't get any bigger. Is that okay? Can you guys see that? Can you guys see that? Someone tell me if you can. Oh my gosh. I hope that you can. I really do hope so. Like, someone say back if they can see it. But this is an organizational chart for the mob. You can see it, okay? Okay, close enough, right? Okay, you can get the idea, but I'll kind of show you guys. So when we are talking about the ways that these groups operate together, we are not just talking about one person, right? Again, we did not see Mima on the top of that Losi Center. And also, Mima is 80 years old. So is she great at, I don't know, Googling stuff? Is she great at, coordinating stuff? We don't know. But this is just an example. And I'm not saying that she is involved in organized crime. No, she is a very ethical casino owner, I'm sure. But if you're thinking about the boss or the Don, right? That really is the big boss right up here at the top of the chart, okay? And so that person, yes, they are the ultimate boss of the operation. But there's a lot of other people that are in this organization too. There's also the underboss. The underboss, that's what Tony was. Tony, when we're thinking about Tony Soprano, remember, again, his uncle Junior was actually the person who ran the Soprano crime family, right? And so he was not the boss. He was, however, functionally in charge of the operation in the same way that a lot of middlemen are. But he was not the actual top of the top of the top. And if we want to get to the top of the top of the top and figure out exactly who these people are, then we have to identify everybody that is within their organization in a position of power. But if you think about the fact that I'm like, okay, hold on, guys, I'm going to try to, is this going to make it bigger? This is going to be so sad if it doesn't. Oh, maybe it did. I hope so. Does that make it better? I think it might have. Okay. So the underboss is usually the functional person in the organization. That is who I have been really trying to specifically pin down and identify in all of our little mob families, right? Then we also have the Capos, the guys who are kind of in charge. Say, I'm just using total example. But if we were talking about the Vegas folks, if we were talking about Mima and that group of people, well, there is definitely going to be someone like Mima at the top. And then the underboss could be someone like Johnny Moore, for example, could be. Not saying that he, has been engaged in any criminal wrongdoing. And honestly, I don't know. I do not know. But just as an example, the underboss might be somebody who is more like a Johnny Moore character. The capo, well, if we're thinking about who it is that's kind of, running the show, it's the boss underneath the underboss. That's where I'm kind of putting Andrew. Again, this is just my opinion and just an example, I think, for clarity, but I am not actually saying that any of these people are capos within the mob. But you know what? I think that it's a fair comparison to make. And then underneath them, that's when you get to like the henchmen. Okay, like the henchmen. That's how I think about. Like how they're kind of set up. The henchmen, I'm like, those are guys kind of like, I don't know, Andrew Wilson, right? Rob McCoy. I'd say Rob McCoy for sure. Apparently he was like flipping out on me or something online. I haven't seen it. I'm not a huge fan of his work for the past decade, I guess. But ever since Barron called him a little sailor, I've pretty much I've kind of relegated him on my list of importance. So I call him Sailor Moon. Like that's just what I use as a term for him. So his level of importance, though, is that he has a microphone and he has a pulpit, unfortunately, that he chooses to, in my opinion, misuse. But when I'm thinking about what the real responsibilities, the roles, and the amount of actual decision-making power that someone like that has, what I think we might be looking at is more like some of the henchmen, some of the soldiers. They are not actually decision makers within the organization. Terrell Farnsworth, right? I think Mikey McCoy is under even Rob. He's more on my goon. He's on the goon level. I have my henchmen, right? That's kind of like they've got a mic, they've got a voice, and they're regularly there for a reason. Agent Poso, I guess, what's his name? Officer Mama. That's what I call him in my head. So with those guys, those are kind of my henchmen, right? But the goons are the ones that are just kind of around and are professional trolls on the internet. So for Gary, I'm sorry to say, bud, but in my opinion, we're looking at the goon level, right? You're not actually there to make any decisions. You are just there to really carry out what you were instructed to do. Somebody like Tyler Boyer, I don't know. Again, I don't know. It is also possible that Tyler could be more at that underboss level, right? Ostensibly, he is the person who actually introduced Andrew to the organization, and he also introduced Erica to the organization. But for us to sit there and focus on those individuals as though they are the key decision makers, especially the lower level folks, I'm like, no, that's just distraction. And that is being used as a control tactic, right? They want us to focus there. They want us to be afraid. Well, I'll tell you, of course, I watched Candace on Sean Ryan, and she said something that really resonated with me. She said, the only thing that I do not fear death. The only thing that I fear is the country that I will leave for my children if I do nothing. And I think that most of us feel that way. So we're not going to worry. We're not going to stress about what little goons on the internet are saying, or even little henchmen like guys. No, we are focused and we're keeping it there, which is where it really, really needs to be. I know that, I just saw a great comment. Can I put it on the stage? Okay, well, this is a great comment. Thank you. So thank you, Tinfoil. For Tyler, check out the Leah file. She's diving in on all of them. I couldn't agree more. Yes, she is doing excellent work. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to her channel or subscribed to her Substack, please, honestly, you really should, because she does incredible deep dives. And I've been following along with her stuff. She's been talking about all of the different levels of power within that organization. And some people that I think that we really need to keep our eye on are Stacey Sheridan, right? Tyler Boyer, yes. Andrew Colvett, she has been doing these deep dives and follow the money, which I think we can all agree is a really good way to kind of keep track of these folks and to know who is actually in charge of who. Because we know that this does not end just at Erica. We know that this doesn't end just at Andrew. Could they have possibly been beneficiaries in some way who therefore were brought to the table because of, these very specific reasons? Well, yeah, that's absolutely possible. And we should keep it in mind. But it doesn't make them the boss. And I don't want us to get stuck on too much of the infighting and whatnot, because that's not going to get us where we need to go in the end. We need to make sure that we are really, really mission focused, because I think we're closer than we've ever been. I really, really believe that. Now, hold on a second. And yes, someone also made a really good point. Thank you, Blaze Greenstar. This is a really good point. It is meant to anger us and to divide us. Your participation is what keeps it alive. I could not agree more. Honestly, I'm like block and move on for most of these people. The only reason that I have personally bothered to look is because I wanted to kind of think about, okay, so we have the Kandahar giant who's reacting to this. And then we also have former intelligence officer. Is he naval intelligence, or is he just a regular Navy officer, former Navy officer, Sailor Moon? And they're both having these kind of outsized reactions to the Fort Banana guest list. Well, guys, if those are the people that are reacting to that, who might it mean is the ones who are feeling stress and pressure from getting information like that brought into the public, right? So does that mean that TPUSA Faith has any awareness of the federal government or any of these government contracts or anything like that? Is there any kind of faith component that we have been tracking as far as coordination with different intelligence agencies? Is that possible? Have we ever heard of such a thing? Zios and, and folks like that having a intelligence component with our own military. It's not the first time I would have heard of that. And so for me, I think to myself, that kind of fits. That really does kind of fit. Also, we know that our resident Kandahar giant, realistically, we know that he has a significant background when it comes to working with the federal government, right? We know that he has had those contracts. Now, I was thinking that he was being directly paid by Turning Point, right? Wasn't that kind of a conversation the other day? It was kind of a conversation the other day that it was like, oh yeah, Gary says, I didn't talk to, or I'm not actually paid by any of them. I'm not actually paid by any of them. I do not work for Turning Point. Well, we could be right. Do you work for the federal government? Because they're kind of coordinating with them too. Is that what it is? I'm not saying that it is, but think about that, right? That it could be that he's telling the truth. So that is the reason why I make a point to just kind of say, let's listen to what they're saying, but let's not allow them to distract us, because it's not going to. And the reason that they're panicking is because we are getting close. So I just wanted to make sure that I, made a point to say that. Also, I see that we have people in here. I can't tell if we have likes or not, but if you haven't hit like, will you please, because it's super helpful to get the stream in front of more people, and some of the stuff that we're talking about and that we're going to go into, I think is really good learning for people. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to nerding out, I'm like, I want more people to be aware of this stuff, and I hope that you guys do too. But this Google Trends tool is such a great tool. And so I'd love for more people to be able to feel included in this, also to be able to use it in their own lives, not just for this investigation, but boy, I think it's really good for this investigation. So what we'll do is we are going to go in and we're going to take a look at how we kind of develop our, data clusters. How do we develop our data clusters, and what is it that we are being informed of in these data sets? Because that hard data that we are able to generate from Google Trends, that is, to me, some of the most important information that we can have in an open source investigation, right? Just remember, guys, if they are paying attention to it, they're going to start modifying it. And so the sooner it is that people are able to go in and look at stuff before they actually successfully do that, the better. So I'm like, let's get everybody on the same page about Google Trends and all of that good stuff right now. So I'm like, so I hope that everyone has had caffeine today and is ready to talk about things like Boolean operators, because guys, that's, we're going to get a little bit cap and gown, but don't worry, we're going to slow it down. We're going to simplify. Don't even worry about that. I am thinking that if you guys wanted to do anything like have a kind of a research along, then you can do that. And I thought, okay, why don't we just kind of like make sure that we don't go too long so that we can actually research people's questions, or something that they want us to look at while we are hanging out right now. Also, do not worry. The minute that I get a notification from Queen Candace, then we are going to be wrapping it up here, because I am never going to be someone who tries to make people choose. And also I want to watch it. So like, I'll be busy too. I want to get in there and watch with you guys. I'll be hanging with you guys over there in the chat. But I want to make sure that we're all wrapped up because, yeah, I don't want you guys to have to choose. Come on, I would never ask that. So let's go ahead and let's hop over into Google Trends. And I'm going to just kind of break it down because, well, if we are able to see what it is that they're doing and we are able to get this data, then it changes the onus from the investigator into the individual who's being observed. If we can actually see these, specific data points, then for us, we can say, you know what? I think that I need you guys to explain maybe where it was that you were on September 8th, 9th, etc. So my feeling is that if we do that, then it's going to be really, really helpful to kind of narrow down what it is that we're seeing, what is signal, what is noise. And also I'm going to show you guys some of my favorite little hotspots and little sneaky little zones and whatnot. Not all of them. I don't want to, give away state secrets or anything like that. But as you guys know, we know that we're watching. At this point, we know that they're watching too. So let's get into it. Okay. Hang on. Let me hop over here and great. Okay, so first things first, the website is actually trends.google.com. That's how you go into the website. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit about how rude. Excuse me. Okay, how we get into the website. Hang on one second. Hold, please. I think I probably just have it pulled up on the wrong thing. Hold on a second. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we got him. Okay, don't worry, guys. Hold on a second. Don't worry, they're not going to pull a fast one on us. Just hold on 1 minute. Let me just go to. Okay. Well, no, I don't want to go to that one. I want to go to. There we go. Okay. I was like, there's no way that they're going to be able to keep us from getting on there. One day, guys, I do have like this horrible feeling that we are eventually just going to be sitting there and it's just not going to come up anymore. So that's why I'm saying that the more people that we can have feeling comfortable with the system and that are using the system actively, the more information that we can gain before that option is taken away. That's why I'm like, let's get into this and let's get like really comfy with it. So first things first, when you hop up on Google Trends, I'm like, let me go back to the homepage. Wow, it does not, guys, it's not playing with me today. I just had to go into, okay. I have a specific tab that takes me directly to Google Trends Classic. Now I don't know, let's see. Okay, no, it is working. It's just my computer is being a little pain in the rear, but that's okay. So this is going to take us to Google Trends Classic. Now, in order to get into the actual Classic tab, all you have to do is once you go to Explore, you are going to see the option to hit Classic Explore. It's a little blue banner that's on the very top of the screen. Okay, and so that little banner, what that does is that is going to take you to the Classic version. As we know, literally when Barron popularized this tool, they changed it. Can you believe that? They like actually changed it. It used to only look like this. This is the classic version, but then they changed it to this like new Explorer version, quote unquote. And it's different. It's different. And the way that it actually like generates data. Now you can do some kind of cool stuff with it. I wish that I was able to pull it up. Maybe I will be able to. I'm like, can I? Maybe I can. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can add this to the stage. You guys, we're doing it on the fly. Wow. Look at us. Who'd have thought? I don't want to stop the screen. Well, maybe we can't. Okay, that's fine. You know what? It's fine. We're gonna soldier on. So when we are in Classic Trends, this is what the screen is gonna look like, okay? Don't worry about the search topics, all of this stuff that's down here toward the bottom. Like, don't worry about that. This is just going to show you the things that are trending that can be rising information, like FIFA World Cup. See, this is a good example. So if you look over the past 12 months, this is FIFA World Cup 2026. Trademark. And it's an event, right? We know that the interest in the World Cup is going to be something that really, really kicked off when it started, right? And so what that does is that shows us, hey, look, all over the world for the past 12 months, there was some little bitty baby interest in this topic, but at a certain point, and we can hover over it and see where it is exactly that it really started to kick off. It's like May 31st through June 6th, 2026. People started getting excited. All over the world, global interest. It went and it skyrocketed. It stayed really high. I'm like, what happened? Wait, is it over? Guys, sorry, I have to admit something. I'm not like a huge soccer person, so I don't actually know. You guys can tell me if it went well. I think it did. I feel like it did. I saw something that like Javier Milei was mad or something, and he like accidentally tweeted. He accidentally left his congratulatory tweet up or scheduled, and then for some reason they didn't win. As I understand, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Messi. Again, I'm a football person, like an American football person. Sorry, football, the American one. And so I do not know very much about soccer. I do know, very interestingly, so I did go to a game. I went to a game. I was lucky enough to get to go to a game, and it was just really fun. And I went to the one in Boston, and I went to the one at the Pats at the Patriots Stadium. Who was it? It was Germany and Paraguay. And it was so fun. It was really fun because I think that Germany was expected to win. They were very much the favorites. But for some reason, little Paraguay, they were so excited when they won. And it came down to penalty kicks, and it came down to the last penalty kick. And I was like, well, you know what? For the first real soccer game that I've ever attended, we picked a good one. This is really, really fun. And I always love it when like the little underdog, finds their way. So they kind of did that, and it was a really good time. But I was very sad for all of the Germany fans because I thought they seemed like they really, really were expecting to win. So again, I don't know anything about it, but it was fun. When I was there, I'm like, there's a reason I'm telling you guys this, by the way. So when I was there, it was at the Patriots Stadium, and I had heard that they had that Blue Square Alliance data center that they built at the Patriots Stadium. Did you guys know about this? I'm like, hang on a second. I have to tell you guys about this, and we'll come right back to Google Trends. Don't even worry about it. So Blue Square Alliance. So they literally built a data center. So the Blue Square Alliance Against Hate, formerly the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism, is a nonprofit founded by Robert Kraft in 2019. He's the owner of the Patriots, of the New England Patriots, right? And so quite literally, guys, inside of the actual Patriots Stadium, inside of the stadium, there is a data center. There is a data center, and I saw it. I actually saw it. Like there, you could actually go and see all of the towers. Is it towers? You know what I'm talking about. All of the turbines. Yes, all of the turbines. And they had like drones up and flying, and they were like watching the crowd walk around. And I was like, this is not a joke. And there was even like noise, the kind of the data center, like white noise thing. And I was like, this is real. Is this the future that America wants? I don't know that it is. So very, very iffy, but that's okay. We still, soldiered on, and go Paraguay, I guess. So back to the trends. Sorry about that. Quick aside, I'm telling you. Okay. So if you go to, you put in Google Trends into Google, right? Then you go to Explore, and this is going to take you back to Classic Explorer. You'll know that it's Classic Explorer. It's going to look just like this. If you see it look different than this, it's like just a different formatting on this page, then that would be the new Explorer. So try to stay away from that one. That's just my opinion. That's just me saying that, okay? Now, when you go into this actual page, it's going to give you the option to add a search term. This is where we're going to start. And then it's going to give you the location that you're searching, right? Starting with worldwide, the amount of time that it is that you're searching this, like the period of time that you want to look at specifically. All categories, we never even touch that, to be honest with you. It's just a, this one, it does allow you to look at things like arts and entertainment, auto and vehicles, beauty and fitness. I get the feeling that that's more for the business folks. I did watch like a few like McKinsey talks on how to best utilize Google Trends to, benefit your business and all of that good stuff. And I was like, guys, I don't know. Like, I don't think that that's really us at time, right now. But realistically, it's not something you're going to use when we're doing this kind of little part of our investigation. Okay, it's too narrowing. We want to narrow things down, but only in like the specific ways that we need to. We don't want to be narrowing stuff down when we don't have to. Okay, and so if you guys do want me to search for anything in specific, then I have like the little super chats on and everything like that, and I'm going to, if anyone puts one in there, then I'm going to go over it, and I can look stuff up on the fly. That's fine. Let's do it together. But I have a couple that I already think are interesting. Very, very interesting. And once everybody gets really comfortable with, the ability to use this tool, then there's some that are even more interesting. But before I bring it to the public, we have to make sure that we database everything as well. Because again, I was so upset when guys, I was so upset when they took all of them away. I mean, of course, I had them saved. Like I had them, they were all saved. They were already sent to, people with much louder microphones than me. I made a point. I always do that. I made sure that, I had tons and tons and tons of them that all have metadata attached. And I mean, I literally, sometimes I'll do all different formats and whatnot, but, I'll make sure that it's all information that you can see when I looked it up. You can see that it's not AI generated. I do not even know how one would do that. As you guys know, we are computer, but only somewhat computer. We are not fully computer in that way that I could go and do that. And I wouldn't, by the way, because there's no point, because again, it's not really that much of a surprise, but there's a lot to see. So guys, not making it up, right? I'm they'll call you anything, but they will not they're not going to call me a liar because I'm not. So anyway, as I noticed that they were going through and they were deleting things, I was like, I'm really sad, but at the same time, I think that means that we're onto something, right? I'm that's such a bummer, but I think that it means that we might have caught it, right? We might be actually looking at the guest list. Now, again, I do not say that is a 100% certain thing. Who could say that? But I do think that it is enough evidence that there was something going on that fort, on that day, at the time, that all aligns with the exact procurement pipeline that we would have expected to see. That I do think that, yeah, it's enough hard data that we can say, hey, should we be asking ourselves where these people were on that day? Now, again, like we talked about last week, Pancake, our darling Pancake, who decided to, for whatever reason, use AI to create his alibi. Well, someone made such a good point. Oh my gosh, I wish that it was still here. I wish I could find it. Someone made such a good point in the chat, and it was before we started. So I'm I'm just going to read it out loud because I think it's far up. But guys, so someone named Delco Daddy, hi, awesome name, cool. They commented, everyone knows what Pancake Pete looks like, so they wouldn't even need to image search him. And I was like, that is a great point. Because if we're thinking about who our individuals were that were there, weren't there, well, everyone knows what Pancake looks like. So I don't know that they would need to actually go and image search him, right? Everyone knows who that is. Pancake is Pancake Pete. I saw something. Hold on a second. So no, we have that. Pancake is Pancake Pete. That is our Department of War Secretary, Pete Hegseth, Pancake, if you will. We just give them nicknames because who knows? But the censors are on us, but we're staying 10 steps ahead of them every single time. Come on, they need to do better than that. Come on. Now, Andy, I just call him Andy, Mr. Colbert, friend of the show, but yeah, so just to clarify for that one. And okay, let's go back over and let me show you guys. Nope, that is not how we do that. There, that is. Okay, great. So when we are in these search terms, right, we have worldwide, okay, that's our location. Past 12 months, that's our time frame. All categories, this one we're not worried about. And then we have web search. Now, web search just means that someone was quite literally Googling that thing from their phone, from their computer, from their tablet, or from a VPN tied to a certain location at that time. It's just a web search. We just go on Google and we pull it up. Now, as you guys know, a lot of times what we were running across was image searches. So if you drop that down, you'll see image search as kind of one of the, initial options. I think that that is really, really helpful because it means that they were actually searching for that specific term under images. It does not mean that they went and they clicked onto someone's Wikipedia and for whatever reason that decided to sit there and say, oh, here's their image. That is not what that is doing. What it's doing is it's actually taking when someone did an image search of that term. Now, for me, part of what I do is if the image and the web search happen at the same time, for example, like at Fort Banana, if there were any that happened at the same time, same day, same time, if it's a web search and an image search, to me, that made it less likely that it was important. Because my thought was, if you're just looking up someone's bio, then you would web search them, but you might also want to see some other pictures of them, right? That would make sense. So you would web search them, but you would also image search them. If that kind of information is both there at the same time, then just for our investigative purposes, for me, it decreases the likeliness that this is going to be a key signal. It puts it more into noise territory. Doesn't mean that it's irrelevant. It doesn't. But situationally, we should be thinking about, well, if the hypothesis is that they were Google image searching these people, as I'm sorry, my contact is killing me. That's fine. Or not my contact, my eyes are killing me lately, hence not wearing my contacts. So that's fine. So if we are thinking about the fact that someone was only image searching, then for the purposes of our investigation, we should be thinking about why is it that they only wanted to see what they look like? Why is it that they didn't want to also read their bio? Why is it that we would think that they would need to just look at a picture? Now, my personal hypothesis has been that this was probably the escort, right? The Army Uber that was going to go and pick these individuals up, because that time frame, the times that we were seeing those searches, they kind of coordinated with when people would be arriving for a meeting, right? Think about what Mitch was saying. He was saying that he had run into individuals that were being looked at, or we were seeing individuals that were being looked at the night before. And then at the same time, Mitch said that he had arrived the night before and he was staying at the Candlewood Inn, right? And that when he was at the Candlewood Inn, he had seen someone that he thought maybe was Miss Erica, maybe, right? And also individuals that he thought maybe were Cabot Phillips. Now, for me, again, guys, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. I know that Cabot ran into Candace at that park, didn't he? Right? And so at that time, he ran into them and he was like, it wasn't me. I was not there. Leave me alone. Don't do this. Very rude, by the way, rude. But regardless, he said specifically that he was not there. But it wasn't it interesting the fact that Martin Kindle really looks eerily like Cabot Phillips. It's very possible that that was, who Mitch saw. So I'm not totally sure. Regardless, it's an interesting data point, isn't it? And by the way, we should also keep in mind, guys, there are individuals that also work with Mark Amadei. Apparently I was pronouncing that wrong the other day. Sorry about that, guys. But apparently there are individuals who work with Mark Amadei that look a little bit like Erica. So I don't know in the end. I really do not realistically know. And I'm not here to make a judgment on that. I want to just present information, whatever information it is that I have, and then I'll let people draw their own inferences on stuff like that. Okay. So here we go. Let's take a look into some of these search terms and I'll show you guys. So let's do a little search for, we already saw with the FIFA World Cup, right? What I wanted us to do was, I'm like, what shall we look at? Okay. When we are in this box here, add a search term, that is going to be the digital footprint. And it is what we're looking for is the telltale signs of operational friction. Okay, the telltale signs of operational friction. Now, again, I'm sorry, guys. I know cap and gown stuff, right? But, oh my gosh, wait, sorry, bye. I have to put this on the screen. Does anyone else hear minions when she says Fort Banana? Goodbye. I do say it like them. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, sorry. Love you. Okay. Anyway, that was cute. And I absolutely am saying it exactly like them. And I do that with Bongina too. Yeah, what can we do? I don't know. We're in deep. Okay, guys, it's a lot. So, okay, back to the Google Trends. Let's focus. when we are looking for these digital footprints, right? This is part of our digital stakeout. The digital stakeout is what can we see using open source information and publicly available data that will kind of tell us a little bit about what it is that other people were privately interested in, right? Because this Google search is not something that's being done publicly. It's something that they're just doing between them and their phone, usually, or desktop, whatever. It is something that they are doing just them. And they can do it on their iPad, to clarify. They can do it on a laptop, but I'm just saying it's something that someone's putting into a computer to look up. It's not something that is being done publicly. It is a private act that is going to allow us to see what was on another person's mind. It's a really great tool for that reason. And so when I'm looking for things like Fart Banana, I am thinking about what signs might I see of operational friction. See, when an event happens, right, in the 24 to 48 hour period prior to that, what is going to happen? The planning phase should have pretty much been completed. And now it's all about getting all of those last little pieces of logistics, getting all of the last little pieces of, getting everything straight and perfect and exactly how you need to do it. And so, hang on a second. What we want to do is we want to try to hypothesize what it is that we would look up if we were planning an event, for example. So if I'm planning an event and I'm planning an event at Port Banana, then where can I find some operational friction? Where can I find some places where I might need to do a Google? Because that is what is driving people, generally speaking, to do these searches. So that was the reason why I went with images, and the images in military jargon of our individuals that may or may not have been at Fort Banana. Operational friction is going to be something like not knowing what someone looks like. It's going to be something like, I don't know, taking a look at the normal policies and procedures around, picking up someone at the airport or whatever, right? It's going to be like something that I don't already know. If we make sure that we use the quotation marks, that to me is the best way to start off with making sure that we're really, really seeing what people were looking for in a way that is going to direct our own investigation. So quotation marks, right? Everybody know, we know. That means that we are going to have an exact match search term string. I'm like, that sounds like such a horrible, oh my gosh, that is just such what a horribly complicated way to put it. But what it means is that if we use quotation marks, like for example, let's take a look at, who should we use? Can anyone give me a shout out of like maybe a name? I know that a couple people have been looking for some specific folks that we thought maybe could hypothetically be related to this meeting. Does anyone have like a name that they would want us to look up? I mean, we can go ahead and do that. Oh, here, a really quick question that I wanted to answer just while we're chatting. So someone said, why can't we use web for this stuff? I think that there is definitely an opportunity to use web specifically for a few different searches. But something I want you guys to think about is that the reason that web is so trustworthy as an AI is because web is only trained on the data that is put into web. That's my understanding of it anyway. That because web is only trained on the data, it is only reviewing the data that it already has access to. That's why you can trust the answers. And that's why it's such an incredible tool. The unfortunate thing is that what it means is that it's really, really hard to, you would have to input your own outside data in order to have web review it and then be able to give you all of the answers. Now, that's definitely something you could do. I'm like, I should do that. I need to log back into that. Oh my gosh. But that was just kind of my thought, was that, you want to make sure that you are considering the fact that this data set is what web is being trained on. So it's not going to be able to go and search across Google. That's a lot of the reason that I like Google. I know that they're all, they've all got their problems, but I do like Google because it has access to probably like the most data that we can find in the, it probably is, right? And so I'm not saying that it's necessarily always 100% accurate and reliable, especially with their AI LLM, but I'd argue that it's got all the data. So that's why I still, continue to use it, and rely on it a little bit. So, okay, let's go ahead and let's go with Rob McCoy, because I heard he was talking about us today. So let's take a peek at him. So we can go with Rob McCoy, just as an idea. Okay, so this is the past 12 months of the information that has been, or the times that Rob McCoy has been Google searched. Now, that is showing us that it is a peak time of September 21st through the 27th of 2025. Now, this actually makes perfect sense when we take a look at what the global interest would be in Pastor Rob McCoy, right? If we were going to be looking him up then, well, what do we know happened during that week? We know that, for example, Charlie's memorial was on September 22nd, I think it was. So it makes sense that, yes, the week of the actual incident, then the interest began to climb. And then the following week, there was continued interest, and that interest peaked right during the same week as the actual memorial, because I do believe that he spoke, right? Wasn't the first time? Did he wear that little sailor outfit? Did he wear the sailor costume, guys? I'm not sure. He should have. Let's see. So now we're going to start to narrow the data down a little bit, okay? So the first thing that I do is I want us to go ahead and get into the specifics of Sierra Vista. Now, Sierra Vista is a designated metropolitan area. What that means is that, I'm like, okay, so if you were looking in New York, right? Say you were looking in New York. If someone says, I live in New York, well, where? Do you mean New York City? Now, for most of us, I'm like, let me take this comment off the stage, guys. Bye. I'm so sorry. So for most of us, we're sitting there going, well, okay, New York, obviously that means Manhattan. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean Manhattan. In fact, Manhattan's one of the smallest places in New York. We know that New York City consists of 5 boroughs, but we also know that New York could be Westchester County. New York could be upstate, right? You could be in Buffalo, New York. You could be anywhere. And realistically, that search did not necessarily originate from that designated metropolitan area. But if we went to New York and then we said New York, Manhattan, right? New York City, then we would know, okay, cool, we got it, we're on it. So let me go ahead and hop in here. Okay, so let's go to Sierra Vista, which is where Fort Banana is, right? Okay, so in the past 12 months, doesn't have enough data to show here. Well, okay, we are never, ever, ever going to fall for that, because the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually look at the custom time. Now, again, because Pastor Rob has certainly had a reaction to the situation, for me, I have my doubts that he would appear, but it's worth a peek, and we haven't peeked yet. So I was like, let me go ahead and take a little peek, because maybe other people will want to look too, and also maybe they forgot. So for me, what I do is, in this specific situation related to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I like to start with January 1st of 2025. That for me is just a good time fit that I can always apply to everybody. So we want to have consistent standards of when it is that we're checking on stuff, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, is this so nerdy, guys? I really hope that this is not way, way, way too nerdy for other people, but it's important. And also, if you guys want to use this tool, then doing it in these really specific ways, it's really, really important to do it that way. Otherwise, you can get a lot of false positives and you can get a lot of noise. And how are you going to know? Right? The very first time that I ever opened it up, I think I checked my own name and I was like, oh my gosh, well, guys, Ana Kasparian, it was like pulling results from Ana Kasparian, okay? Because I wasn't using the quotation marks. So at that point, like I said, I made a point to actually set out to learn how to use this tool, and now it's become very effective. But if you don't use a specific search term that's in the quotation marks, you're going to catch absolutely anything. I could put in this and I could put in, I don't know, we could put in Sailor Moon and we might get something for Rob McCoy. Who knows? Maybe I'm not the only person who's had that little nickname for him. Well. This is us doing this together. So I promise you guys, I have never, ever, ever once searched for this man's name. Guys, hang on. Well, wouldn't you know it? So what we have is a very specific hit. August 2nd, somebody was looking at the name Rob McCoy. So what I do personally, I'm like, guys, I'm going to take you through the little process, right? Okay, now this does not mean that we say, okay, yep, that's it. He did it. Somebody get the handcuffs out. No, it doesn't mean that. But it's interesting to see him on there. I thought that he was going to not be on there. Now, having a little spike like that, the reason that I think that it's interesting, guys, is because a little spike like that A little spike like that right there in Sierra Vista. It means that we have a very specific date. Now, people were looking on that one day. Do you guys remember how he had that little mountain on the worldwide searches? Remember how he had that little, I call it like a little mountain, where it's like, it's not just a spike. It's a little mountain. The interest climbs, the interest recedes. That is more like, I don't know, something interesting happened. For example, he spoke at this memorial. But a spike, that's where I start to say, uh-oh, we need to look at this further. So what I do personally is I go and I say, okay, well, okay, we have August the 2nd in Sierra Vista. So then I just note down August 2nd, right? And this is going to be a web search. Next thing is that I'm going to compare that result to the image results. So let's take another little peek. Well. July 25th. That's a different day. Now, the reason that that's interesting, in my opinion, is because somebody was looking at Pastor Rob McCoy and his image only. You guys see how that's not the same day? I'm like, guys, okay, I just want to make sure you saw my face. Guys, and again, I have never searched this man's name again, so we're literally doing this on the fly. So, not saying that any of this means anything. We're not just going to go throw the book at the person because they were being searched. But it gives me a little bit of a, well, that's interesting. And those are two abnormalities that are enough that we need to keep going. That much we know, right? So we soldier on. When we noticed that they looked at his image on July 25th and they looked at him on the web on August 2nd. Okay, well, let's narrow it down a little bit more. First, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a look at someone. Now, especially if it's someone who is kind of a known public figure, if I get a positive result like that and it's just a little bit weird, then what I'll do is I will open up the search to the year before. So now I'm at January 1st, 2024, right? Now, for me, I don't like to go a huge amount before. Okay, let's see here. March 2nd through March 8th, we have a result here. March 2nd through March 8th. And this is 2025. Okay, so that is going to be an image result. Now, I'm making a note of all of these different dates because when I'm looking at this information, what we do next is we go and we take a look at what was happening in those people's lives. Remember, guys, that Pastor Rob McCoy is a public figure. So it could very much be that something was happening. This is how I actually take the information and say, can I rule it in or rule it out as far as its actual importance to this case? March 2nd through March 8th. Okay, so now we have a range. Now we want to go back to the web searches. And we have June 16th through 22nd. Okay. So I just have the note of the fact that he has two dates that are nearby. However, what this tells us is it's actually it's really, really helpful. So what this is saying is that in the last 2 years, guys, there was not enough traffic happening during this little span here to have it generate an additional peak, an additional spark. Does that make sense? See, there's not enough that was going on for Mr. Rob McCoy that he was also being searched during August and late July. If this is someone who truly it's about them being a public figure, a lot of times we'll run into little additional pings on them and we'll say to ourselves, well, okay, you know what, maybe this is just a popular person. Maybe he just did a great series. Maybe he came and visited the base. Who knows? But there was not enough interest overall for the past 2 years for it to actually generate a positive result. It is only once we start to narrow down. So now we go back. Now we go back and we say, okay, cool. We have a little bit of an idea of the amount of time that we're looking at. So we know that these searches were happening and they were happening right at the summer, right? So the 7th month and the 8th month. And when it's the 7th month and the 8th month, what I'll usually do is I will start with May. So I'll go with May 1st, and just to make sure that we capture like anything that is, oh, that's not the year. And then I'm going to pull it there. Okay. So now we are starting to narrow in a little bit more. So we have our August 2nd. Again, this is the kind of thing where we're saying, okay, I'm not seeing a different date right? Once you start to narrow in, it's if it starts to disappear and if it starts to get strange at that point, then it's like, okay, maybe again, that's all telling us that it maybe is more likely something that's having to do with like some noise, right? This is just a routine thing. But you'll notice that it is specifically, again, August the 2nd, for some reason, that this search is being conducted. So I'm like, and we soldier on. Let's take a peek. So before that, we had, August the 2nd. And then I put a little check mark and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I check it again under image. Same day. That's just a little verification. So when you go out in the time frame, you would expect there to be no additional results or like no additional results at that time. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So realistically, if this were nothing, then we would be like, okay, you know what? There was still that little ping happening at that time. If there is nothing, well, maybe that ping is more important than we thought. Then we go in, we get closer in the date and we say, oh, they were still looking. Okay, no other pings, no other changes. These are still the same days. So someone was looking. Now, again, this is the ways that someone is going to be referenced exactly the way that it was put in the box. Rob McCoy was being searched, that exact search term string. What that means is that no one was looking up McCoy. This is not giving us the results for McCoy, Rob, right? No one was looking up Robert McCoy. This is not for that. This is not the results of that. No one was looking at, this wasn't about Pastor Rob McCoy. Actually, no, technically that one could be in there. Now we have to get into Boolean strings. I'm sorry. Okay. So when you are thinking about the way that it was put into the box, it means that that exact phrase was put in that exact way. Then from there, what you can do is you can add, they're called Boolean operators. It just means that you put it like a plus if you want to add another term, right? Or you put a minus if you want to remove those terms. The only thing is that since they changed everything, I have not been able to use the Boolean operators in the classic. So I have to go back to the actual new one and use them there. But realistically, guys, don't worry too much about it. It's like, well, you know, that's pretty like, I don't want to say advanced stuff. I know that you guys are all very advanced. If you do want to do it, you have to go into the Classic Explorer. I want to focus on the actual comparison tool because this is where I think that it starts to get interesting. So now let's look at, he's referred to as Pastor Rob McCoy. Let's look at that and make a comparison. What's the name of the actual place that he is affiliated with? The actual church. That's Cavalry, right? Cavalry Church, is that right? Can anyone tell me? Can you guys tell me in the chat if that is what you guys are actually, is that the church that he's affiliated with? Ooh, someone said to search. Okay, let's do Victor Marx. Let's do Victor Marx too. No problem. So is it Cavalry Church? Let's do Victor Marx. Oh, and let's do, yes, let's do Lance Twiggs too. Cavalry Church. Okay, perfect. So we see this one. It's not at the same time. Okay, we have a June 20th. Okay, all right, fair enough. Why don't we try Rob McCoy Cavalry? Sorry, wait, my brain. Cavalry. Okay, here we go. Cavalry Church. Let's do the whole thing. Now, this is saying that the entire thing is being searched in exactly this way. That's interesting. August 30th. Okay. It's interesting. So maybe it is that someone was also looking for him in his capacity as the pastor at Cavalry Church. August 30th. It's just a little bit more of an interesting date. Okay. And why don't we try this? Let's try for a little bit of a control, the way that he would be referred to, maybe by, oh, no. Oh, it won't let me do those. Okay. McCoy. Robert. What I wanted to do was make sure that we were searching for different ways that people might input his name, because he may not always go by Rob. He might go by Robert too. So, okay. Next up is Victor. So we don't have results in the same way. The only results that we have right now that are getting close to the date and time of the actual meeting itself is going to be Rob McCoy Cavalry Church. Now, for me, this does not necessarily represent a positive result, given the fact that these are pretty consistent searches for someone who is a public figure in his capacity as a public figure. And again, like I said, guys, I don't know that the henchmen, I don't think that many of the henchmen were actually invited, but let's go ahead and let's take a look at Victor Marx now too. So this for me is like, I do not consider this a positive result. Okay. Now it's interesting. It's something to think about, right? But when we are, someone said chaplain. Cavalry. Oh my goodness, you're right. I misspelled it. Liza, thank you. Calvary. Oh my goodness. See, okay, common misspellings, definitely something that we need to pay attention to. Cavalry. Well, somebody spelled it wrong, and it wasn't just me. Calvary. Yes. Okay. Cavalry. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. I'm sorry. Did we spell it that correctly that way? Well, isn't that interesting? Well, somebody misspelled it, so I guess I'm not the only one. Because that one actually pops up and this one doesn't. That's so funny. But another little thought to keep in the back of your guys' mind. If you ever want to actually, once you start getting like pretty positive results, you have to check common misspellings exactly like that. And for exactly that reason, because how many people do that, right? When they put it into the box, guess what? Half the time they put it in the wrong way. So it's important to always go and double check. But again, to me, this does not necessarily represent a positive result. And that's because we have to be really, really scrupulous in the way that we are considering something to be a true signal, considering it to be a true signal. Let's go to Victor Marx because I'm curious about him. Let's take a little peek. I'm like, should we look in the Greatest Ally to see what they were thinking about Pastor Rob first before we delete all of his data? We could do that. So when you are looking through your data and looking through the different ways that you are referring to people, then what you'll also want to do is check other places before you go and delete it. So don't go and delete these until you're done really looking at them, right? So what I like to do is I will often check in the Greatest Ally because it's interesting and because I want to know and because I get the feeling that there's a lot of interest in that person. Okay. All right. Well, someone was very interested in the Greatest Ally and Pastor Rob McCoy on August 30th on an image search of him. And I'm like, so that's another date that I'm going to put on August 30th. Okay. If I get a positive result in the Greatest Ally, then usually what I do is I go and check Cyprus. What I'll let you guys know is that I have very, very consistently gotten positive results in Cyprus. Cyprus is right next door to the Greatest Ally. Right? So if I'm looking in Cyprus, I always check in Larnaca. That is where there is a great deal of allies. And it's that's kind of where we have tied Mima and her specific operation. We've tied that to Larnaca. So let's take a look. And we have it August 13th. So guys, see how I'm taking a little note of the dates that it is that these searches are coming back with positive results? That way we can make a comparative analysis at the end of our actual, breakdown. And it's only once it starts to get really, really frequent in a short span of time that I think of that personally as positive results. So then when you want to go to somebody else, then, or, looking at something else, then you just go in and you remove all of the old information. Let's see here. Let's check Victor. Let's check Victor Marx and Larnaca. Hold on a second. Okay, what's his real name? Isn't that not his real name? Does anyone know? Chat, can you tell me what Victor Marx's real name is? Because I swear it's not that. Let's check over in the Greatest Ally. So we scroll down to there and hang on a second. I could have just spelled it before it took me all that time to scroll. That's interesting. So this is in the Greatest Ally. So now we're going to want to look at our little Victor section, and we have a July 11th, 2025. Okay, perfect. So we have a positive result. This is in the Greatest Ally. Now, are you guys interested in looking at like the different little areas that are in the Greatest Ally? Because guys, I think that it's super fascinating. That's just me personally. But when we are looking at the different areas within the Greatest Ally, sometimes that can give us even more of a clue. I'm like, I wasn't expecting to see him there. I don't know why I wasn't. I guess I should have been. All right. I'm like, well, Victor, So now when we hop over to greatest ally, there's different areas within the greatest ally. Okay. So we all know what the shape is, right? But the areas specifically are going to go by the center district. That's kind of just like the middle of the country. Then there's Haifa, that's up to the north. Jerusalem, that is a little bit further south of Tel Aviv itself. And then we have like the north district. I'm like, it makes me get pretty frustrated. The north is up north. It's by Lebanon. The south is down south. That is toward Egypt. And then Tel Aviv, obviously, is like the main city. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's smack in the middle. It's a hair north of there. But when I'm looking, I will start with, I just kind of go through them really quick, right? Okay, we have center districts. So we had a July 11th. Now we have a July 7th. And I just take a note of that. Then I go, okay. Then I check in Haifa. Okay, nothing, not really a huge deal. Then we want to go through Jerusalem and nothing there. Then we want to go to north. And so see how I'm checking through all the different little districts? We have a July 9th. And that is going to be in the north. So we have a center and a north in our positive so far. And then we want to go to south. Okay. August 8th, a little more interesting. Just in our timeline. That's fine. And then let's go to Tel Aviv. Oh, for sure. Definitely nothing. Now, guys, something to think about is also the fact that in the greatest ally, the actual location of different parts of the Mossad. I'm like, am I allowed to say Mossad on stream? There's different, they have their own version of the CIA. They have their own version of the FBI. Okay. So their version of the CIA is kind of more Mossad. They're like, think that they are the people that are just getting up to, they're the mischief makers, right? But if we think about, they have also their own version of the FBI, which is more kind of their locally interested federal law enforcement, right? It's called, is it called Shamar Makal? I think it has, listen, I don't speak that language. Okay. So something to think about is that if we are thinking of the location of their actual hubs, then the location of the Mossad like hubs, that is more so in actual Tel Aviv, right? That's where we're going to see in actual Tel Aviv. And then I also see a great deal of it in north and in center. When we think of south, we should be thinking about some other groups. The IDF has a base down there. It's called Nevatim. I know that me and Dinks went and looked at it when we were on stream the other day. Yeah. So when you start thinking about the southern more parts of that country, then think it's a little bit less standard. It's also not nearly as populated. So if you're seeing results there, yeah, probably a little bit more for a reason. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So next up, let's go ahead and let's take a look out of the greatest ally, and let's hop back over to Arizona and let's take a look at Mr. Victor. I don't know if I expect to see anything here personally. I'm like, I hope I don't. Okay. I really hope it, because again, in my current impression, I'm thinking of Victor as like a goon, right? Like a goon, like a person who is sent out with this direct instruction to go ahead and actually carry out whatever the instructions were from his employers, right? And so the idea that we would have somebody like Victor there, I don't know that we would. I would hope that we wouldn't. Now, I would like for the information to get a little bit more specific. So when I am sitting there and I am going through and looking somebody up, so if I was seeing really consistent results on Victor, the next place that I would go personally is you would look at their address. You look at their address, right? And you would actually look up the address itself in the same way, using the quotation marks, making sure, okay, is this signal? Is this noise? Is this something that we're seeing a great deal of? Are these expected findings? Let me give you an example that I think might be kind of fun. So hold on one second. I am going to let's look up visual impulse. You guys know visual impulse, right? So that is the company that is owned by one Terrell Farnsworth. And it has a location in Mesa. Now, I have a little bit of background intel on that actual specific location, and I kind of want to tell you guys, is that bad? Should I tell you? Okay, I should. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So just so you guys know, Visual Impulse is actually located, physically located at Turning Point. So while their address, their street address, their listed address may not be the actual compound there in Phoenix, the one that's on, what is the name of that one? Is it Beverly Road? Waverly? Whatever, that is where they are physically located. So even though the address that you would get when you Google it is this one on East Jensen Street, guys, their actual location is the exact same building. It's the same building that the Charlie Kirk Show is actually run out of. And so their warehouse, their offices, every single thing that they do, it is located in that same building as the actual Charlie Kirk Show. It's actually on the second floor. I'm like, Pastor Rob McQuay, Sailor Moon, if you're in the chat, make sure you let us know if you can verify this for us. But what I was going to say is that, yes, so the actual Visual Impulse offices, they are located on the second floor of the Charlie Kirk Show. However, the address that is listed for them is one on East Jensen. Now, that difference is one that I think bears relevance in these circumstances. And the reason for that is that if you and I were looking them up, if we were looking them up in, I don't know, the Greatest Ally, if we wanted to know where they were, how we could get there, anyone who is actually there, they would probably look up the address of their actual physical location, right? But if they were someone who, I don't know, were Googling them for one reason or another, well, in that case, they might look them up by their street address the way that it's listed in Google. So I'm like, let's see. So this is Terrell M. Farnsworth. As you guys know, Terrell M. Farnsworth is the gentleman who owns Visual Impulse. I'm like, guys, should we get into it a little bit? I think that we might have to. I am looking in the Greatest Ally, and I'm looking for Terrell M. Farnsworth. That is the listed owner of Visual Impulse, okay? And it does appear that we have positive results in the Greatest Ally, right? Terrell M. Farnsworth. Now, that is a pretty specific name. I'm not saying that that there's not another person on planet Earth named Terrell M. Farnsworth, but it's not the most common name. Should we put it like that? Okay. Now, hang on a second, guys. Let's go ahead and take a little peek at a little bit more information about our Mr. Terrell. So this is, for example, the address of that of Visual Impulse. Now, something that I have observed in the past, because again, guys, it's like I've been looking at this stuff for a really long time, and I've noticed that there's a few little ways to best utilize it. I've noticed, for example, they tend to only use the address and the city and the state, but what they do not generally do is they do not include the actual zip code. Now, this is just in my own personal observation, but what I'm going to do here is I am going to put it in as a comparison with the actual zip code, just so that you guys can see the comparison. So see how there's not a positive result for this, the exact address, 4521 East Jensen Street, Suite 106, Mesa, Arizona, blah, 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 was the zip code. Well, I put it in just the exact same way, and I took out the periods, and I took out the zip code, and there's a positive result. So like I told you guys, and like, this is just me. I have been working on this for like a really long time. I have been working on this since last year, right? Of the best ways to use it. But what I have personally observed is that for whatever reason, in the Greatest Ally, they do not tend to use a zip code when they are looking up information, when they're looking up addresses, and when they are just Googling for something, right? Now, by the way, it might be somewhat relevant of the idea that they were looking at the image of that address on June 10th. Now, why they needed to look up the image of the address for Visual Impulse, knowing that it's not the actual address. Do you guys see where I'm going here with that? See, okay, why would someone need to look up the address of a location? Well, plenty of reasons. But why would you want to look at what it looked like? You didn't put in Visual Impulse. You put in the address in the Greatest Ally. and you wanted to know what the building itself looked like. This to me is a little bit more of a interesting result, actually, for myself anyway, than the Rob McCoy stuff. This is a little bit more of an interesting result for the actual, this is a little bit more intriguing, in my opinion, because when I think about, well, why would someone want to know what the building, the visual impulse is located in, looks like? Why would anybody need to know what the building looked like? That's interesting, isn't it? So let's continue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, I don't want to make it so that anyone can see it. I'm sorry, no offense, but just for his privacy. I do have some addresses of some individuals and I do want us to see them, but I don't want, I'm like, how can I look these up, guys, without actually making it so that you guys are able, I don't want to dox him. Like, that's not cool. So let me go ahead and I'm like, well, I wish I'd already pulled it up, but I feel like doing it on the fly is a little bit more, I don't know. It's just a little bit, I think it just makes the example make a little bit more sense. Oh, guys. Yikes. Yeah. So let me jump over here and I'm going to get his home address. Where is that? Okay. Oh my gosh, not me being like all over this poor person's information. But again, I do not want them to get, like, please do not, no one contact them, no one look at their address. Even if it accidentally goes on the screen, like, do not even look, please. Because again, this is their private information. And so I'm going to look at it and then I'm going to scroll. My guys, oh my gosh, there's probably no way. I'm like, no one look. Okay, here we go. And oh, no one look at that. Nope, do not look. Hold on. Okay. So that is me looking at their address. Let me put in, I'm like, guys, oh no, this is not okay, right? Okay, let me just delete that. I'm so sorry. I don't think that that's actually okay for me to look at his address and then have it on screen for a bunch of people. I'm like, I wish I could just, maybe I can just show it to you guys. I have found situations where people's home addresses were found, but I'm like, no, that's too dangerous. I don't want the stream to get cut. And honestly, I would want someone to cut the stream if they looked up. So I didn't want to put the city in. It's okay. But what I'll say is that it is curious to me, the idea that they were looking up his specific name along with his business address. Now let's go ahead and let's look at something that is publicly available data. So why don't we swap over to, why don't we look at visual impulse, where is it? Mesa. So when I'm going through and, okay. All right. So when we talk about data clusters, that's what I was kind of hoping to find, guys. And thank you for bearing with me. So when I'm looking at someone's actual, like an actual cluster of data, you see how those are really close to each other. What that means is that, hold on. Oh, sorry about that. So when we are seeing information that someone was looking a little bit more around a little bit of time, a short span of time, why is it that someone would go and they would look for his name and his image and his business image right in the same span of time? Okay, let's keep, so we soldier on. So let's look for another address that is also associated with that specific business. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm not on accident doing any doxing. That is a big deal. So let's be ethical here, guys. Let me see here. I had another address that was affiliated with our gentleman in question. So let's look for the Ingram Street address. So there's also another location that is on Ingram Street. So it is 5135. Okay. This is another address that is associated. Again, it's on publicly available sources. This is not us doing any doxing. Do not worry, but it is interesting, right? So if they were looking at one, let's see if they were looking at another. So this is Ingram Street. And that is going to be Mesa AZ. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, no, I don't think that is interesting enough. That's back in May. We can make a little note of it. As you guys can see, it's a pretty, it's I don't want to say it's not exhausting, but it is a process to be able to establish, am I seeing anything that is important? Am I seeing anything that indicates that someone was looking in a way that was inappropriate, right? Now, I think that this right here, this indicates to me that there was some interest in that group. So now I've kind of found a couple little dates that to me are curious, right? So we have August 10th and we have August 14th. Now we need to narrow down a little bit more on our location. What I do personally is then I'll go over to the greatest ally and I'll start to look. We remembered that we saw a little bit of something here and there in a few of the specific areas. We check center district and we just run through them. I'm like, this is like live research, guys. Sorry, I know that that's not the most exciting thing, but I think it's interesting. And this is how we rule people in and rule people out of actually having any kind of affiliation. Well, isn't that interesting? That is a little bit of a notable result right there. So that's August 13th, which is right between August 10th and August 14th. When I'm thinking about, again, guys, data clusters, now I have a date that is August 10th, I have an August 13th, and I have an August 14th. And this is where, for me, I start to think, okay, this potentially could be a data cluster. That's the way that I think that I kind of differ from how Baron likes to conduct his searches. I know that he likes to go through and he likes to look for like an individual result, which I think is really, really illuminating a lot of the time. You know, it can be really interesting to be like, okay, it was only looked on this day at this time, this, this one phrase. And that is like a really great way to do it. But for me, I say, okay, I'm seeing on these 3 days, someone was really curious. Why would they be so curious, right, during this time frame? So then I start to make a little note of it, August 10th through 14th. The last thing that I'm going to do with this one is, hang on a second, let me just look through a couple other little areas on North District. Outside of our range, right? So more an indication of signal rather than of noise. Or excuse me, of noise than of signal. Sorry. And then we have South District, and we'll check Tel Aviv as well. Nope. They've done a lot of wiping of the data right in that area. And so my feeling is I'm like, well, guys, I'm not sure that we ever get super legitimate results in Tel Aviv because they're on to us. But again, this is how we stay ahead of them, is by actually going and doing the legwork. A lot of it is, I saw somebody say that I need a daisy. Guys, here's the thing. I am a daisy. I just don't have one, and like daisy already exists. That's the thing, is that the daisy already exists. So Baron doesn't need like additional researchers. That's the thing. He has like the best one of all time, but that's more like much more where my natural interest is to just sit there and be going through all of the different, pieces of data and then compiling them. But honestly, I just have fun hanging out with you guys. So that's why I'm like, we'll get on stage. Now, if there were a way to clone her and then she could give me the information, that would be amazing. But we're going to have to look into the cloning thing. And right now, I do not have time to look into Zorro Ranch. It's a whole nother thing. So we're going to skip for now, but we'll soldier on. And also, the way that I'm doing this is just trying to make sure that people can kind of follow along with my thought process and how I go about looking, because I know that people also want to be engaging in this kind of learning and this kind of research. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Usually, I would say generally what I do is I will make a point to already have the data compiled so that when I'm presenting it, you guys aren't seeing all of this stuff behind the curtain, right, on the stage. Like, this is the stuff behind the curtain. And this is what goes into research. If you are considering actually, conducting this sort of research, you don't want to go off half-cocked. So when you are looking through the information, July 4th, then there we go, July 4th. Okay, that's fine. You have to actually go through and you have to put in the legwork. I think that this is a lot of what Baron does as well. But again, the only cluster that I have found for the time being is that little August time period. So we put it into the time frame a little bit, August 24th. So we have another image search. This is going to be Cyprus, August 24th. Let me see here. Sorry, just got a message. So, okay, August 24th. Now, the reason that I think that this is interesting is that we have a Cyprus, what I would say is a relevant time frame hit in Cyprus, August 24th, and then we have our relevant time frame hit in the greatest ally, August 10th through 14th. Those are the things that are of note, in my opinion, in order to, let's see, pull out those important dates and pull out the actual kind of information that people want to, that people are going to want to take note of. Again, Cyprus for me is extremely relevant. That is because we know that Cyprus has become a new ally in some way, shape, or form. And for whatever reason, they have become very, very interested in the ally, right? So let me see here. Let me go ahead and... So we have these positive results for Terrell. You know what we should also do? Let me just take a quick little peek because I believe that there is a co-owner that is a co-owner of Visual Impulse. And I believe that I had positive results from him as well. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anyone else when I'm looking at it. Da-da-da-da-da. Here the interview. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, let's look at Philip Goldsberry. Let's take a look there. Guys, I will be so shocked. Oh my gosh, please. I'm like, don't let me find anything. Please don't. Okay, so nothing in Cyprus for Mr. Phil. Let's go ahead and pull back that time frame just a tiny bit more because especially as we're adding a new person, we want to make sure that we are able to encompass the entire year. Now, personally, again, I like to use the year of 2025 just because it's like a pretty good catch-all and a spot to start, right? Now, this is going to be Cyprus. And again, it's interesting that there's, for the entire span of the year, the only times that we know that is a hot zone and a frequently traversed area by folks like Mary, right? Or Mima, excuse me. So we know that Mima is in Cyprus a lot. It's interesting that on August 24th, that there's this positive result for the image of Visual Impulse. It's interesting, but it's not necessarily conclusive. So let's hop back over to the greatest ally and let's take a look. And please say that Philip Goldsberry is not. Okay, so we do have positive results here for Philip. Okay, so we have a couple positive results for one Philip Goldsberry. They're early. I don't believe that Philip Goldsberry is a public figure, right? Is he a public figure, guys? Hang on a second. Not me, like being like, oh no. So what I wanted to do was also go and look up Philip Goldsberry Visual Impulse. Okay. Okay. So a couple of these results, that's not what I wanted to see there. You guys, chat, can you tell me, is Philip Goldsberry a person who is a public figure? Can you guys tell, can you tell me if Philip Goldsberry is? I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with him. So is he a public figure, you guys? Because I don't think he is, right? So we have a March 2nd. Oh boy. So when we're looking at individuals, we need to make sure that we are considering who it is that is a public figure and that isn't. Sorry, you guys, I was not expecting to see a positive result right there. So I'm a little bit not happy. Okay, so we have a March 2nd, a February 13th, and we have a April 24th. Now, it doesn't mean anything. Okay. How about, why don't we try a little variation? So let's try Phil Goldsberry to 1L, I assume. Okay. Let's try Phil Goldsberry. Okay. Okay, we have an April 24th. Oh my gosh, you guys, I get like sad when I start to see stuff. guys, I get like kind of bummed out when I start to see things because we are doing live research. This is the guy who mic'd Charlie. This is the guy who put the microphone on Charlie. Now, and this is not to say that Philip had any awareness, knowledge, nothing. This does not necessarily say that Phil had any awareness, knowledge, it's not. It is not to say. It's just I wasn't expecting to see his name. Now, just so you guys know, Phil is someone who does often attend these events. We do know that. The one who does not usually attend the events is Terrell. Terrell does not usually attend the events, but Phil usually does. So when we start to see positive results, it gets a little weird. I'm like, oh, guys, I don't know. I don't know if I like learning stuff live on camera. I don't know. I'm not sure that I love that. Okay. Okay, we have a Terrell result, and this is just looking at, again, these specific areas around the ally that I think might be interesting. Okay, Center District, we have more image searches. We were kind of expecting this. What I'm doing right now, guys, just so you know, is I'm poking around different areas of the greatest ally. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if there are any patterns that I can immediately identify. For example, are we seeing Philip Goldsberry with searches for visual impulse? Are we seeing Terrell Farnsworth with searches for visual impulse? Which of these two individuals is being searched along with visual impulse versus which ones are being searched on their own? Or are they being searched both men together? Does that make sense? So for me, I'm like, okay, cool. We're just seeing Terrell Farnsworth and his business and the name of the business. And then that is in Center District. That's just something to make note of mentally. Then when I go to another district, it could be that I only see Phil Goldsberry in the Jerusalem district. And then we have a later search as well. So you guys see how it's like, this is when you're starting to see something that we want to look more into. This is what that's giving me. Now, this is not, again, to say that there is any necessary, like, you cannot make a determination based off of this data. But as I am seeing more and more positive results around different areas, then I start to say there's a lot more here. Do you guys remember when we were just looking at Rob? There weren't this many results. So it starts to become a little bit more relevant as we go. Now, again, looking at the image of this person on July 23rd, that's a little bit of a date that we've had in the back of our minds. It's something to be aware of. But the more positive results that I see around someone, like, guys, I don't want to dox this person. Oh my goodness, I don't want to. I really want to look up his address. I don't have his address, obviously. But I do think that what I'm going to do, so, okay. From an ethical perspective, I'm not going to look up this person's address, nor should anyone. If, say, we knew someone who knew, the condo this person lives in or something, maybe we can look at the name of the condo, blah, blah, blah. But where you take the investigation from here is really going to be up to you. I do not believe in doxing people. I do not believe in looking up their private personal data. So I'm going to not continue to look into Phil at this time on camera. It just does not seem like the right decision. Does that make sense, guys? I hope it does, because again, part of it is being ethical, and also part of it is saying that what I care about is giving you guys the tools so that you are able to better look into these things. Now, it's notable. It's notable enough that when I get off camera, I might, I don't know. But, oh, someone just sent me a message. Oh my gosh, and it might be really helpful. Okay, so someone just sent me a message that Philip Goldsberry's father is a pastor. I'm like, why am I feeling a sense of relief, you guys? I'm like, guys, because you guys know that it absolutely devastates me whenever I find anything that seems like it could be a thing. Okay, Philip Goldsberry. So Philip himself is not a public figure, but it could be that people are looking up his father. So as soon as we get pieces of information that can kind of provide a little bit of context, that could be really helpful. So now, if I were enterprising, I love when Barron says that. If I were an enterprising individual, what I might do is I might repeat those searches. And saying Pastor Philip Goldsberry. I might repeat those searches and do a comparative analysis between Philip Goldsberry or Pastor Philip Goldsberry. And then I would take a look at Phil Goldsberry visual impulse, right? How can we go ahead and actually like kind of start to parse through that data and say, well, does that mean anything or not? So that is usually for me, my next step is once I see something that looks a little bit like, okay, we're seeing a little something, how do we like further break it down to rule in or rule out its relevance to our case? Now, that is not to say Philip Goldsberry had anything to do with this. It's not to say that he didn't. But it is important context because being ethical in our investigations is the most important thing, right? We do not want to get ourselves into a situation where we're like, okay, yep, hey, Phil, he did it. Like that's not okay. And it's also not going to necessarily be accurate. So it's up to each of us to sit there and go, okay, what is some important piece of information? Because it's a thread, but it's not necessarily anything that we have to, we don't want to fall down the rabbit hole. And that's how we keep ourselves from doing that. Does that make sense, you guys? I really, really hope that it does. Because for me, like I said, getting this thing right is more important than us feeling like we're right. Do you see what I mean? Like the most important thing that we can do is get this thing right. That is the most important thing. It's not about being right. It's about getting it right. Because otherwise, then we could be seeing anything and we could really be jumping to assumptions. I never want to do that. So for me, I'm like, okay, things to think about. Now, when something else that I just wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit, because I think that it's really important. So the more specific information that we can get, the better. When you are looking through the Google Trends, did you see how we had Terrell M. Farnsworth? It is better for us to search Terrell M. Farnsworth than it would be for us to search just Terrell Farnsworth. A middle initial, that's the sort of thing that we can be like, well, there's not that many Terrell M's. I mean, guys, we know there's not that many Terrell Farnsworth. It's not that common of a name, but it's a sort of thing where, okay, Terrell M, help us rule in or rule out if this is the actual person that we are referring to. That is the sort of thing that we want to make sure that we are actually taking the time to say, okay, there's not two Terrell M. Farnsworths probably being searched in that relevant area, but let me see here. But maybe there's more than one Terrell. Now, obviously, again, that's a unique name. We'll want to check common misspellings. That's one of the things we'll look at. We'll also want to check, I believe that he also has a father his father doesn't have the same name, does he? But good information. We will want to check if anyone is a public figure, if they have a family member that's a public figure. We will want to always use our quotation marks. And then we are going to look through and we're going to flex the data out and in. Out and in. That's what I always like to do, okay? Because that's our first way to rule out what is just something that happens to come up and what is something that is actually relevant to our investigation. Then when we start to see those positive searches, more and more and more of them. Usually to me, I think of it, it's my little mental Rubik's Cube, because I'm going, okay, well, one thing here, one thing there. Well, I write down the date. Did they take place on the same day? Are those all coming in different places, but on the same day? Or are there a bunch of places coming from the same place, but on different days? And is that days, do they represent a short time frame? If we are starting to see more and more things pile up that are right in the same time frame, then that feels like a clue. Do you see what I mean? And so at that point, we go, am I seeing a little cluster of data? Once we've established there's something there, then our Rubik's Cube starts to come into shape a little bit more, and we can see, oh, wait, they were looking up all this different stuff. For me anyway, the thought exercise that I prefer is I sit there and I go, okay, so if I thought that there might be something going on here, what might I Google around that issue? What might I Google? So when I was looking at visual impulse, for example, we wanted to look up visual impulse. We wanted to look up visual impulse, the address. We wanted to look up the actual physical location, and we wanted to look up the listed location, right? We wanted to look up the person's name associated. Do you guys see where I'm going? A lot of times that's something that I think that probably you guys do on your own. But if you have trouble with it, then generally speaking, what I'll do is I'll go into Google myself, not Google Trends, just regular Google. And I'll start to think to myself, well, what would I Google? What would I do? How would I spell cavalry church, right? Because all of those little human differences, a lot of that can be places where we pick up on a little faint signal that is hiding in the general public. And also that they have not had the opportunity to wipe either, right? Then it can kind of clue us into when we are starting to see like this is going to matter. Now for me with these searches, my feeling is the Philip Goldsberry one, it's interesting. And I really do hope that if an enterprising person wanted to find out very specific information about what his father's titled role is, and make sure that those weren't searches for his father's titled role. If we thought that there were going to be searches for him, then we would probably look up Philip Goldsberry Visual Impulse. That helps a lot too, because we know that his dad doesn't work for Visual Impulse, right? Or if his father is a pastor, like one of you lovely folks, let me know, and I so appreciate that. Then let's look up Pastor Philip Goldsberry. Does that make sense? So how can we separate out the signal from the noise? That is a perfect example of us working together to figure out what's important. And then once we get on our list, that's why for myself, I feel as though the Fort Banana meeting matters, and why I feel as though the Fort Banana meeting is actually representative of signal rather than noise. See, the individuals that were being Googled at that meeting, they were not being Googled in a way that a civilian would Google someone. And also their names were relatively uncommon, right? So when you and I are looking at Bradley Hansel, generally speaking, we are not looking at Bradley Hansel, OUSDI. When you and I are looking up Shahad Chaudhry, we are generally not looking up ASW-I Shahab Chaudhry. That's not really a normal way to Google it, right? So we can definitely continue to peek, but I would encourage an enterprising person to peek. It should not just be me. Look, again, I'm like, guys, please don't make me be the only one who's looking at this stuff, because I want more of you guys to look at this stuff because it's so interesting. But as we start to put together timelines, as we start to look into it, it's like, what are we seeing here? And if we are seeing something that we can kind of identify and feel a sense of confidence in, then what does it mean? Because it doesn't always mean something, but sometimes it might. Now, what I wanted to do was, I'm pretty sure that our darling Candace is going to be coming on. I'm like, usually Candace comes on in what? Like another 20-ish minutes? Is that right? What time has she been going lately, guys? She sometimes has been going like a little bit on the early side, but I know that they're kind of fussing around with it. But I did want to make sure that we had time to go. And I'm like, guys, I have to like dial into Candace today because, hello, I'm pretty sure, I just have a suspicion that big things are coming. Did you guys catch Baron last night? That was so good. I was like, thank you for saying every single thing that I've ever wanted to say to Andrew. Like, it was so good. Oh my gosh, I get like, I just was really thrilled to see that. And so I get the feeling that this week the pressure is on and the pressure is turning up. So that's good. How can we continue to investigate these matters when we know that they're trying to at least cover their tracks? And just so you guys know, we're working on it. Don't worry. You know, it's not always stuff that I want to bring up right away. I did notice that someone did put into the chat that, to make sure that things are being screen recorded. If we are looking at it live on here, then it's on YouTube, which is good. But just know that every single time that I find a positive result that seems relevant, then again, it is something that is always being screenshot, compiled, saved in a couple different ways. And then as those lists get longer, then I feel more and more comfortable with saying, okay, great, I have the data, I have it, and then I send it out. And then at that point, generally speaking, that's the point where I'm reporting on it. Reporting? Is it reporting? I'm coming on and telling you guys about it. So generally speaking, it's a lengthy process, but I just wanted to kind of do it on the fly so that you guys could get a sense of kind of how I'm getting into figuring out what's relevant and figuring out how we find it in detail. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump in right now into supers, because I think that it is important to talk about that stuff, and that's so kind and sweet and wonderful. And I just want to make sure that there aren't any that are about any questions that people have of things to look up, because I'm like, we can certainly look. Okay. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Oh, yay, a new member. I'm so thrilled. Okay. So you know how we're looking stuff up on the fly right now? My thought is that when we have more people, then we can work on this stuff together in and work on these research projects together a little bit more in detail. And I can tell you guys a little bit more about the stuff that's going on behind the scenes because, guys, we've got a really big research project. But again, because I know that Andrew and, Rob McCoy are watching, then I don't want to talk about it here. That's kind of a member show type of deal. Thank you so much, Chill. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We are soldiering on. Lizzie, oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Lizzie is you make my heart smile every time. And thank you so much for helping me hopefully invest in, I don't know, one day at Daisy. Can you imagine? What if I can be like, Daisy, can I have you part-time? What would you, would you be okay with doing just a couple hours a week? Like, girl, come over here. Wouldn't that be amazing? Thank you. So Lizzie says, thank you for all your hard work, Ana. We're so proud of you. Keep pushing so we can hopefully reach the truth. Absolutely, we will. We will be soldiering on. We will be continuing no matter what. And thank you very much for helping support the program. Oh my gosh, the program. Thank you so much. It really means everything. And honestly, it's the fact that you guys are with me that lets me do it. Also, I really hope that stuff like this, like little learning lessons here and there, are helpful to people. If they are, if you guys ever want me to do more of this stuff, then you can let me know. Generally speaking, I like to show you guys kind of background in the moment, but I also like to make sure that I am being very cognizant with the ways that I am presenting information, especially when it's important to consider that these are people's actual names, their actual lives. And I don't want to just get on here and say, well, gosh, we found Phil, so now Phil's on the list. That is not how I would present that information. For me, I would say, okay, it's interesting and I love it. Then we would go through. I do have co-investigators as well, just so you guys know, just folks that if there's anything that's a little bit on the more extreme side, I talk to them about it first, just to make sure that there's not a situation where I don't ever want to just toss someone's name out there and be like, gosh, this person is guilty. Like, no, we can't do that, right? We do have to be cognizant. So I just want you guys to know that I am very, very stringent in my process, but even I can be caught off guard sometimes, and I definitely can't think of everything all at the same moment. So that's why I like to make sure that I'm talking to my co-investigators and also giving it things time to run through my mind first before we actually come and report it here, because also it can be like stressful. Oh my goodness, not just to me, to you guys too. Can you imagine? I don't want you guys to be like all stressed out thinking we found a million different things. So thank you, Lizzie. I so appreciate you. Oh my goodness. Oh, Critter. Hi, Critter. This is a perfect time of day for me. Also, is the RC video on X. You rock, Kristen. Hi, Kristen. I love you so much. I love seeing familiar names. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know them. I know them. Now, yes, we did do a video that was a deep dive on, what are we going to call them? I don't even know. Guys, okay. So I put a video up. It was like, I don't know, maybe it was a 45-minute or something like that. It was a deep dive into the RCs, and their links to Boston Consulting Group, to Beebs, of course. And Boston Consulting Group, as you guys know, is the same place that Mitt Romney comes from. Oh my gosh, I can't even say it. I'm so scared to even say it because I put it up and I thought it was pretty good. And then I got an email that was like, you must take this down immediately. Okay. I had no idea that was going to happen. It was like oh my gosh, maybe it was my second or third YouTube video that I had ever made. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know that I was allowed to say that. So Fort Banana it is, so that's kind of how we've been operating ever since then, in my opinion. It's a sort of video that I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe one day when I have a grown-up channel, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's a time frame that you are allowed to, like, it's like, I'm kind of, you still, it's like we're on the, the watch list. Like, I don't know. So I'm on the naughty list for right now. That's hence all of the, I'll go speak, very sorry for it. But as time goes, we will get to a point where hopefully we don't have to do that anymore. And then we can talk about it because it is relevant. But the relevant information from that is that there's definitely these links. And Boston Consulting Group is somewhere that I have them high on my list for a reason. And a lot of that has to do with their affiliations to persons that are involved in this story. So I'm like, I hope that tells you enough about it. And as soon as I'm allowed to post it, I promise I will. Thanks. And let's see. Oh, France Bay. Okay, so another one from Critter. France Bay couldn't let CK push releasing the e-files. You know what? I don't know that I wholly disagree with that. See, like I said, you guys, this mafia parallel that I've been kind of just rolling around in my mind, it feels to me like it just kind of snapped everything into place for me when I started thinking about that. Because I've been sitting there going, well, are they like all on the same team? Why are they working together here? But now all of a sudden, I don't know. I mean, the Kandahar Giant is mad about is trying to promote Rubio. Meanwhile, Agent Poso is saying to us that we need to vote for the vice sectional for president, otherwise we're all in trouble. And I kept thinking, so how are they on a different team? Like, how could they be on different sides? How is it that they could? Well, they may serve different masters. But it might, so when I say, like, when we say that Israel, Charlie, right? That's like saying the mob, Charlie, which is a more on the nose phrase than I think that I even intended. So what I'm saying is, if we're thinking that Israel, Charlie, it's like saying the mob, Charlie. When you say the mob, who do you mean? When you say the mob, do you mean the Bananos? Do you mean the Genovese? Do you mean the Lucianos? Who is it that you mean? And just like in that movie, Analyze This, great film, again, Rob De Niro. Guys, like, if you have not seen it, it's one of my very, very favorites. It's a very cute one. It's cute and fun and everything like that, but I think it's a pretty good picture. One of the most common refrains that we see is that the mob will do temporary alliances and they'll betray each other. They'll betray each other, they'll backstab, they'll do whatever it takes to get what they want. And what they want is power, they want control, they want money. And there's only so much, and there's not that much to go around. Now, as far as France Faye, I don't know. I'm like, do we mean the older France Faye or do we mean the younger France Faye? Something to think about, right? Because if we mean the older, the senior Mrs. France Faye, well, I'm not sure. Think about that for a second. Is the elder Miss France Faye, does she have any relation to anything to do with those files? Does the younger one have any relation to anything to do with those files? I don't know for sure. Again, I do think that it bears relevance that all of a sudden, for one reason or another, Turning Point decided to get on board with the Island Boys and push for JD. I refer to him as the vice sectional. I hope that you guys understand exactly what that joke means. I really do. But for whatever reason, they decided to get in bed with that group of individuals. And as a result of that, they were really, really promoting him as a VP candidate. In fact, they were doing so 6 weeks before Butler, right? They were doing so on the days that, I don't know, Andrew and Charlie both ran into Trump in that bathroom, and they said to Trump, oh, hey, that's great. You got that money from Miriam. And he said to them, I'm going to take her money, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to mess her over. So I don't know for sure if someone told anyone. I don't know. None of us can know. But all I know is that 6 weeks later, Butler happened. And 2 days after that, there was JD, the pick. He was selected 2 days after Butler, guys. It's worth thinking about. It's worth keeping in mind. So as far as these relationships, we don't know necessarily who it is that is pulling the strings and who it is that's being controlled. But what I will tell you is that when the mob wants to work together to take down the kingpin or to get a very, very problematic, in their opinion, person at the door, they'll work together. They will. And my fear and my feeling is that Kanye, that's another story. Don't get me started on that. But my feeling is that Charlie, he represented a very unique threat to all of them, not just because he was going to be president, which I do believe that he would have run and been eventually run for president and very likely won. But I think that he represented a threat to each of them in different ways, to each of them in different parts of their own interests. And unfortunately, when that happens, you would be surprised at how much people work together. Oh, Tammy, thank you so much. So thankful that you're taking the time to teach us this. You knocked your second life out of the park, out of the ball field again. Praying for you. Blessings always. You have a beautiful soul. Christ is King. Christ is King indeed. Tammy, thank you so much for saying that. Guys, oh my gosh. Thank you, first of all. And I really just hope that you guys, every once in a while, I hope you guys would be down to like learn a little bit of stuff together, because I know that it can be a little bit painstaking, but I want for everybody to feel comfortable with this. I want for everybody to feel comfortable using this tool, because I know that you guys are going to find so many fascinating things. I have absolutely no doubt. And so before they take this tool away from us, I want for all of us to get really comfortable with it. So thank you so much. And I'm like, guys, this is like, this is as if you were just sitting in my office with me and I was just trying to explain to you how it is that we use this tool. But again, this is like a little bit of a different, once in a while thing that I thought maybe would be helpful. Tomorrow, I think, well, no, I don't know. I think actually, yes, tomorrow I'm going to be ready with it. I should have the results of the project that I've been working on. And I'm hoping to share them with you guys at that time, because I think it's going to knock your guys' socks off. So again, we have to do background, and we have to make sure that we are, being always ethical with the ways that we are reviewing information, and that I feel like I'm presenting information. That's why I didn't want to do it today. I just don't think that that's the right decision, and I want us to make the right decisions. I'm like, Candace has not said that she's starting or anything, right? No, please tell me no. Please say no. Someone say no. Oh my goodness. Is she coming soon? Okay. I thought that maybe I was going to see something about her going, and I'm like, no, I have to like get, water, and I have to eat something before she starts. Oh my gosh. So, okay. Oh, hi, Philip. Is it Philip or is it Flip? It's Philip. Wait till you know the Italian mama's never in Italian. You know what, buddy? Couldn't agree more. So that is another video that I unfortunately had removed. Actually, I think part 1 of it was in my RC video. Yes, I wasn't sure what part of Italy the name Meyer Lansky was from. I did do one on a gentleman who seems to have been a major player named Tibor Rosenbaum, and I don't know exactly what part of Italy the name Tibor Rosenbaum is from, but I couldn't agree more. And so I think that it's very much relevant and does not escape me. I hope that you guys all know what we're talking about too, right? Again, like I said, if I even say these words out loud, I already know that YouTube's just gonna pull the plug on the stream. So not allowed to do that, but that's okay. Definitely. And it definitely was part of what I have been rolling around in my mind when it comes to thinking that there could be some sort of affiliation between these groups and the ways that they're operating. Right now, the ways that I've kind of broken it up are I have kind of my DC group, I have my Vegas group, I have my Silicon Valley group, and I have my overseas group. But when I say my overseas group, I'm only kind of referring to overseas classic, right? Recognizing that the group that's in Las Vegas and the group that is in New York and the group that is in Silicon Valley probably all have those ties as well. And I never want us to get too small in our thinking, and be too limited in our thinking. So I definitely want to make sure that we're including folks of any who walk by any faith in a potential suspect list. But trust that I'm tracking, and I agree with you. Let's put it like that. Great job, Go Max. Thank you, Nikki. I really appreciate that. We will go Max because, again, the thing that counts is that we get to the bottom of it and that we figure it out. That is the most important thing. Oh my gosh. Someone just sent an Uncle alert. Hello. That is so me. Oh my gosh. I have to learn how to internet, guys, and I'm going to work on it. We're on it. Don't worry. It's just that I felt like teaching myself stuff like Google Trends and stuff all of that stuff. I felt like that was kind of the most important thing. But eventually I will teach myself how to be a major interneter, and that's good too. But for now, I'm like, I am talent, not production, please. So that's okay. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I really appreciate you guys hanging with me today. I really hope that you'll hang with me tomorrow, because then I can release the information that I have, and it's relevant. It's relevant to this conversation. But again, because now that we have observed that they're watching I wanted to have it all ready to go and send it to other people before I brought it to the forefront. What I would ask is if any of you guys are so inclined, do a ton of Google searches tonight. Because I get the feeling that tomorrow when they see the stuff, they're going to be mad. That's all I can say for now. You know what I mean? Got to speak in code. But I'm like, but it's too late for most of you. Sorry, gentlemen, too late. Like, we already got the info. So I'm going to close it here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I love you guys all so much. And let's go watch Candace. Hello. Oh my gosh. It's going to be thrilling. I can't wait. Okay. I'll see you guys over there. I'm like, everybody, she should be going soon, right? Does anyone know if Candace is going quite yet? Oh my gosh. Let's look. Candace is going at... Wait, hold on a second. Can anyone tell me what 5:30 Central Time means? Does that mean 3:30? Does that mean 6:30? 3:30? Okay, it does. I know it's God's time. I'm sorry. I need to start, calculating that in my mind. Oh, I just got that today on the show. Perfect timing, you guys. Okay, everybody go grab a snack and I will meet you guys over at Candace. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.